Great, thank you. Welcome to the regular meeting of Hamilton City Council. It's July 14th, 2021, a little after 6 o'clock. We do have 3 public hearings this evening, one involving the Bureau of Justice and the body cameras. We also have a public hearing on receiving judgment assistance grants, as well as a public hearing on the zoning on South A Street. So let's do a roll call, please.
All right. Pullman.
Present.
Fear.
Present.
Vaughn is absent. Ryan.
Here.
Nab.
Present.
Brown is absent. Moeller.
Present.
All right.
Okay, I'll accept the motion to excuse Councilmember Susan Vaughn, and Councilmember Robert Brown for reasons known to council.
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Councilmember Nab, second by Vice Mayor Pullman. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, that motion is carried. Let's start off with an offering of prayer. Councilmember Michael Ryan, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand if you are able.
Lord, please continue to guide our city council, and our management teams with the decisions that we will make to better our community. Please continue to protect our police officers, our firefighters, and keep them out of harm's way. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have to do a little bit of business here with the swear in the city clerk for this evening. So call this to in front of the camera so you can say hi to Mom. Okay. Are you ready, sir?
Yes, sir.
Raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I, Colin Gross,
I, Colin Gross,
solemnly swear
solemnly swear
I will obey the Constitution
to obey the Constitution
and laws
and laws
of the United States
of the United States
and of the state of Ohio,
and the state of Ohio,
that I will in all respect
that I will in all respect
observe the provisions
observe the provisions
of the Charter and ordinances
of the Charter and ordinances
of the City of Hamilton, Ohio,
of the City of Hamilton, Ohio,
and faithfully discharge
and faithfully discharge
the duties
the duties
of the office of City Clerk
of the office of the City Clerk
of the City of Hamilton
of the City of Hamilton
as acting clerk.
as acting clerk.
Congratulations. All righty. There's a lot over there for the special presentation. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, now let's get to a very special part of the agenda this evening, and that is special presentations, and the 2020 and 2021 Public Service Awards presented by the City of Hamilton. And Jane, if you introduce yourself.
Good evening, members of council, family, and friends. I'm Jean Pope, and I am the Human Resources Director for the City of Hamilton. Thank you so much for giving me some time tonight. Congratulations to all of the Public Service Award winners who were honored during a Public Service Recognition Week. It is a time for us to celebrate the profession of public service and to recognize those individuals who consistently show their dedication to the field of public service. Let's get started. Sir, if you come down with me.
Sure. It's going to get the list. You've got the list down here. Okay.
We have several different categories that we celebrate every year, and we have quite a few amazing members of our team, so please help me celebrate them today. For our Own the Outcome Award, we have Mr. Alan Messer. Mr. Messer, if you would come on up. Mr. Messer started at the City of Hamilton in 2012 and has brought a consistent level of commitment and passion to every single one of his projects. As a civil service engineer in the Department of Infrastructure, Mr. Messer is a key player in major infrastructure projects throughout the city. And we thank Peggy Bengy, who nominated Mr. Messer and described how he owns the outcome regularly with his leadership and perseverance. Any words, Mr. Messer?
Thank you.
Please accept this award as a token of our
You're
appreciation.
way too humble. South Hamilton Crossing, North Hamilton Crossing, you're working on all these huge projects for us. Thank you so very much, Alan. Appreciate it.
Could we have Officer Rodney Wilson come on up, please? Officer Wilson is one of our finest and bravest here at Hamilton Police Department. He's been with the city for 16 years, well, 17 now, isn't it? 17 years. As a school resource officer, he's become an integral part of the Hamilton community. He is beloved by the students and teachers he serves at Garfield Middle School and always goes out of his way to treat everyone with care and respect. We thank you for having the passion of Hamilton.
Congratulations. I know those students at Garfield like you a lot. I've seen that in the hallways. You do a great job directing traffic after school to make sure they get back to their buses and back to their homes safely. So thank you very much.
Any words, sir?
My football team was 8-0 last year.
Thank you, Officer Wilson. Let's see. May I ask you to hold this just
Sure.
May I ask Mr. Bill Kraft, our IT superhero? Yes, sir. Mr. Kraft has been the city's help desk manager since 2017. He has a stunning work ethic, and he is receiving the Sense of Urgency Award. I don't think there's even an hour that goes by. If I send in a ticket, you are there like instantly. And so I will just put that out there. You are selfless with your time and patient with all of us that are not computer savvy, shall we say? Yeah, absolutely. And you have extensive knowledge, and your level of customer service is bar none. We salute you, and you are the winner of the Sense of Urgency Award.
Thank you. Now, I just want to say this. You got a great smile up there. I'll tell you what, man. You are happy to be working for the city of Hamilton. I saw you walk into your car about 6:30 last night, if I'm not mistaken. So you worked the long hours. Thank you so much for your passion for our city and your sense of urgency to help us all get on track with IT and all. Thank you.
Any words?
No, not really. Thanks everyone.
You got to go back to work?
Anybody has family out there who may want to join up here with the award winner or at least stand up to be recognized, please do that. Okay?
Absolutely. We have a special recognition award for Kay Farrar and the Health Department. So if we could have our amazing Health Department come on up. So Kay Farrar is the city's Director of Health, as well as the entire Health Department. We're recognizing the entire Health Department, including Jonica Creech, Angie Getz, Sue Haynes, Cindy Hogg, Tracy Heimer, Liz Cromer, and Cami Mitrioni, and Alicia Ritchie. They have, and by the way, this award was given in 2020, so not everybody is present, but we salute them. Their ongoing dedication to provide necessary health care and education to both citizens of Hamilton and fellow employees have helped everyone to stay safe in the crisis. You are calm and compassionate, and we certainly all appreciate her leadership, do we not?
I just want to say thank you for saving lives, because when it gets right down to it, that's what you folks did. You educated and you saved lives.
Absolutely. Any words, madam?
Just thank you, and we're humbled by the recognition. Seriously, we do the work every day because we love it and want it, do it, and it's awesome to be recognized. So thank you.
Absolutely. Job well done, everyone. Next, we'd like to ask our IT department to shimmy on up here. Yeah, you know what it is. Shimmy sham. Don't be shy. Come on up.
I do this all the time.
So in 2020, we also gave special recognition to the IT department, including Craig Bruner, Ken Carrier, Scott Chappell, Leah Hughes, Emily Johnson, Scott Kalick, Bill Kraft, Larry Rover, Tanya Shatilova, Jim Stevens, and Kathy Warner. Outside of their everyday efforts to serve the city, the department over the last year has gone far above and beyond the call of duty for the organization. These are the folks that we don't often see all the time, but they keep us connected, they keep us communicating, and they keep our information safe, and we appreciate you.
Just want to say the smartest folks in the building are in the basement, and that's where these folks work. But thank you very much. You've saved us on many occasions and various issues. So thank you very much.
Would you like to say a few words?
Thank you very much.
People are just so loquacious. All right, so before we jump into our 2021 Public Service Awards, we must acknowledge a man of measure. Our own honorable city manager appreciated Mr. Kirsch and his dedication to the city of Hamilton by saying, "Thank you for your decades of distinguished service to our community. Your love for Hamilton is evident, and your positive impact is immeasurable. When one views our city's illustrious history, it will be impossible to not see your fingerprint on our largest successes." And with that, we have renamed our 2021 Passion for Hamilton Award the Bernard J. Kirsch Passion for Hamilton Award. We thank you and celebrate you. If you'd come on up, Mr. Kirsch. If we could have Mr. Kirsch's family as well, if you all come up as also. Sir, would you like to say a few words?
Well, I want to thank the city manager, city council, and the administration for the recognition. I really appreciate it, and it's a great honor. Thank you very much.
This gentleman still serves this city today. Anybody who knows Jack, he's very humble, but he'll pass on these gems of wisdom that I know I listen to. I think all of council has worked with Jack on various projects, whether it be church, whether it be school, whether it be city. He just knows so much. His wisdom is so important to us, and he really, probably one of the greatest, if not the greatest city manager that we really had in this city. Now, Joshua over there, I did not include Joshua because it's going to be in like maybe a tie or something like that when it's all said and done. Maybe. He's still working though. He's not done yet.
Listen, he clearly is and was the best city manager. I'll vote for that.
Okay, well, there's a Hall of Fame, and both these guys are in it. But Jack, you've been such a special person to this city. Continue to be a special person, and we still need your wisdom. I know that. I know I still need your wisdom. Ladies and gentlemen, how about a round of applause again for Jack Kirsch?
Thank you all so much. Chief Buchheit, if you'd come on up. Christy Collins. She's not here with us. Got the written statement. The first award winner for the Bernard J. Kirsch Passion for Hamilton Award is not here this evening, but it is Officer Christy Collins. She is an amazing woman, an amazing profession, and we have Chief Buchheit here to read a statement that she wrote. Chief Buchheit?
Thank you, Jean.
Yes.
On behalf of Christy Collins, she sent along this message. She said, "I truly love what I do, with Safety Town being one of my favorite things. It's a great honor to teach young children basic safety tips that they will continue to use the rest of their lives. I've also been blessed with wonderful counselors that are out there with me helping every single day, rain or shine. Thank you for this award. It means a lot to me." And I was able to talk to Officer Collins today. Actually saw her out at Safety Town, out in the heat, working hard. It's one of the greatest programs that the City of Hamilton and the Police Department's been a part of. Greater Hamilton Safety Council, as a partner with us, puts on a great program there for the past 49 years. And Christy Collins has led that program the last 10 years and done an amazing job touching the lives of hundreds of young children and their families now for generations. She took over 10 years ago this month from Officer Bob Gentry, who was in that role for decades. And when he passed in 2012, we weren't sure if we were going to be able to keep the program because the curriculum for the program was in his head. It was just something he did every day. He knew it. And I know that Bob is looking down and smiling because he couldn't have picked a better person to take over his legacy and carry it forward. And Christy's done a great job with Safety Town and so many other things for the police department in the city. So on her behalf, thank you very much.
Anybody who's seen Officer Collins around elementary school students knows how much she likes them, how much they like her, respect her, and learn from her. She's a very, very special person, and the City of Hamilton is just blessed to have her working with us.
Thank you, sir. Our next award winner owns the outcome. And if we could have Miss Cindy Hogg come on up to the front, please. Ms. Hogg moved from the Health Department to the Department of Residential Services in 2020 and is the city's Public Health Environmental Administrator. She is responsible for overseeing inspections and abatement of nuisance and property maintenance code enforcement issues. Upon her transition to the Resident Services Department, she was asked to adapt her processes to integrate with resident services processes. This was no small undertaking since property maintenance and enforcement has been under the umbrella of the Health Department. Cindy works across departments to coordinate nuisance abatement, which often involves the Police Department, Health Department, Utilities, Planning Department, and independent contractors. Cindy does an outstanding job coordinating activities across departments to achieve the desired outcome. Congratulations, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you. I greatly appreciate this award.
Could we have Mr. Pat Yingling come on up? I'm such a shrimpo compared to everybody who's been up here. I feel some type of way about that, but we'll go on. So Mr. Yingling is receiving our Sense of Urgency Award. Thank you so much for all your service, sir. He's been a city employee since 2005, and during his time with the city, he has been responsible for the annual concrete repair and resurfacing program since 2008. He has had the responsibility for reviewing street conditions and walking these same streets which are potential candidates for resurfacing. Pat is intimately knowledgeable of all streets in the city and makes good, solid decisions on selecting appropriate streets. Technical difficulties. For resurfacing. His dedication to making a difference in Hamilton is clearly evident in the success of the completed projects he has led from both a financial standpoint and a finished product. We appreciate all of your service today. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
That's it?
No. He's a real humble guy. Spend a half hour with him, you're going to learn a lot about our streets, engineering beneath the streets, and the guy still has his work boots on, man, so this is, you're all about it. Thank you so much, Pat.
If we could have our Resident Services Department, River's Edge, come on up, please. These are our amazing folks. They help us boogie on Thursday and Friday nights. We love that. At the height of the pandemic, the resident services team adapted the River's Edge concert series so that Hamilton residents could continue to safely enjoy these events. In a time where mandates and best practices were changing with little notice, the resident services and River's Edge team were able to adapt and overcome the challenges of operating during the pandemic. One of the things that I will just have to say, attending a concert, there are people that come from everywhere, from Germany, from Cleveland, from Florida, just to have an amazing time in our city. And this is the team that brings it to you. And they are receiving a special award for innovation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I have the fun job and the easy job, which is booking bands and taking care of them when they get here. But all of these folks make the venue, if you've come to a concert, make it run as smoothly as it does, from setting it up. All these folks have been with me for a long time doing it, and they're incredible. Thank you, all of you.
Thank all of these folks. Stop by and see them on a concert night, and you'll see how hard they work and how happy the people are that are around them who are watching some great concerts. Thank you, Adam and team. Thanks.
Thank you all. Could we have, for our Inclusion Award, the Department of Neighborhoods? Come on up. Thank you all. So the award for inclusion goes to our Department of Neighborhoods. They went above and beyond the call of duty during the first half of 2021 in support of the city's COVID-19 vaccination effort. My goodness, did you all vaccinate a heck of a lot of folks? Thank you for that. The department designed and led a process to prioritize the most vulnerable populations in our community, making thousands of phone calls in a month-long, around-the-clock operations. Their efforts, along with many others from virtually every department in the city, ensured that the vaccine was available to Hamiltonians by extending beyond purely digital communication. This time-intensive scheduling and intake operation was a unique and key part of our city's ability to make this vaccine accessible to populations with limited exposure to social media and or internet in general. We salute you for doing the job that none of us could do. Thank you.
So I say great teamwork, great team, and you folks got it done. Flat out got it done. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Just quickly, I said it in there, every department, I think, in the city had some role in this. I'm looking at a lot of people in this room who spent a lot of weekend and night hours, a lot of time out in the cold. I'm looking here at Colin and Chief Eichelberger, a lot of time in the rain and snow out there at the fairgrounds. So scheduling and intake, these three here, I don't know what I would have done without them, or any of us would have. So thank you guys and everyone else who played a role in that. Appreciate it.
And for our last, but certainly not our least award, could we have Kenny Hilger come on up, representing the Greenup Hydroelectric Plant? Thank you. So this year, the City of Hamilton is giving a special recognition to the dedication of staff members who operate and maintain our Greenup Hydroelectric Plant for their outstanding commitment to our municipal services, going above and beyond every day. Last year, during the height of the pandemic, the Greenup Hydroelectric Plant suffered a mechanical failure, which resulted in the unplanned shutdown of one of the plant's 3 generators. In order to get energy production back on track for Hamilton and electric customers at 47 other communities who depend on it, the on-site staff of 14, as well as many Hamilton-based employees supporting them, worked around the clock until the repair was completed. Their efforts resulted in bringing the damaged generator back online in just over 3 months, instead of what would have easily been 6 months or more. We certainly appreciate the dedication and service of all the people at the Greenup Hydroelectric Plant.
Thank you.
Any words, sir?
No.
If we could just keep the round of applause going for all of our winners. We appreciate your service. You guys are amazing. Looking forward to 2022.
Keith, could you just name those who aren't here? Just
Oh, yes, of course. Yes. So Chris Haynes in 2020 won the award for inclusion. He has a very committed staff who loves how he leads. He leads by example and leaves no person out. We have Sandra Kinsey, who won the award for the respect. Her team counts on her on a regular basis to lead them and guide them in all aspect of best practices. She is the one that they lean upon. And then we have Michael Fox, who won the award in 2020 for respect. He has since retired, but we will make sure that he gets this. He's an amazing gentleman. And if you could see the picture, him and his wife are just adorable.
Mr. Mayor,
Please.
if I may, Jeff Martin's actually with us tonight. Jeff is the director over both hydros, and it's not very often we get to see Jeff in Hamilton, Ohio these days, but for council, I think some of you have met Jeff in the past, but if he doesn't mind standing up and just waving to council so they know who he is.
That was a Kentucky greeting salute.
And I apologize, I do have one more award to give out to Alan Messer. And this is the Greater Cincinnati Public Service Award. Mr. Messer, if you could come up and accept your award, it's for excellence in public service. You're welcome, sir.
No words.
Thank you, everyone.
We hear so many compliments about how the city is doing these days, and you have to look at the great city team that we have. You met a lot of them here this evening.
Mr. Mayor.
Please.
You know, so many times the folks that are here with us in city council chambers for our meetings are the directors, the management teams, and things like that. But tonight we got to see a lot of the people who are the nuts and bolts of what goes on every day. The 600 plus staff members and people that help make our city look the way it does and keep the customer service levels up. Our public safety teams are here with us and things like that. So we really appreciate all the work. The awards that were presented tonight were selected by the staff and the employees of the city. They voted for each other. So it wasn't management top down. It wasn't the directors and people that are the management team. It was all the team members within the city that voted for all these nice people that received their awards tonight. So we're really, really proud, as Pat said, the compliments that we receive daily on how great the city is and what we're doing here and things. It's all a result of the hard work and the dedication of all the staff in our city. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Nab. Okay, if there's no other comments by council at this time, we have audience of citizens next. Individuals who wish to make comments may speak during this part of the agenda, may reserve the right to speak when that item is up for a vote on the council floor. All individuals who intend to address city council are required to sign this blue public speaking book that I have in front of me now. Each speaker is allowed up to 5 minutes. We have 3 people who signed the book. We have Jenny Beckman first. Is Jenny Beckman here? Yes, I'm here. Great. If you want to come to the podium, please, and give us your name and your address.
Hello, I'm Jenny Beckman. I live at 21 Fairborn Court in Hamilton. I picked a bad night to come and complain, but I am here on a complaint in regards to the health department. I've received a bill for $500 and some odd for removal of 2 chairs off of a tenant of mine's porch. And I think that's totally unreasonable. There was other items that needed to be done. She did the work. She actually paid the neighbor to do the work. The chairs that they came and removed and threw away were chairs that they actually used. So now I have a bill for $530-some in regards to 2 chairs that they took off the front porch and threw away.
You had occasion to contact anybody in the,
I have contacted Amy Bach, talked to her, I've talked to Cindy Hogg, I've talked to Miss Rose. I actually tried to talk to Kay Farrar and Mr. Adam Helms, and they did not call me back. And then finally I talked to Eric, and he told me to come here.
okay, is that something that we can,
So, I mean, I've been
Into-
trying to get a hold of these people for the past 3 months.
that's something we can look into and ask?
Absolutely.
Back to her?
Yep, I will check into it tomorrow, and I'll make sure that there's a phone call tomorrow from whoever the appropriate department person would be.
And actually, I didn't receive this, the actual complaint until the 9th, and it was dated that they were coming for reinspection on the 10th.
Do you want to give your phone number to our acting city clerk to the left of you?
Sure.
Write it down on something so he could give that to the city manager, make it easier?
How was your neighbor used to get on my roof?
Multi-talented Colin Gross there.
Okay. Must have been a super strong roof.
Yes, okay.
He was, There you go. Thank you very much for listening to me, and I'm sorry I picked tonight.
No, you're fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
We have Mr. Patel here. I'm sorry, I, 2 people here.
Just have some pamphlets that we can pass out. for
Okay.
the presentation.
Could you please give us your name and your
Yes.
address, please?
Of course. My name is Rainey Patel, and I currently reside on 5375 Mason Grant Drive in Mason. And here with me today is my father, Mukesh Patel. Motion to receive.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Fear, second by Councilmember Nab. All in favor to receive these documents, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, the motion is carried. Council has received what you've just handed out for the record.
Thank you. So I will be discussing the patient access to medical marijuana here in Hamilton, Ohio.
And,
Please turn the page. So
please
why
beware, we have the 5 minutes, so
Sorry, we have
okay.
5 minutes.
should I continue?
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay, sorry.
We have 5 minutes.
So why should Hamilton allow a medical marijuana dispensary? Well, one, Ohio has a highly regulated program that offers patients a safe and effective treatment. 2, it's an effective tool against the opioid epidemic. 3, there are dispensaries needed within the state of Ohio. And 4, medical marijuana dispensaries will help boost the local economy. Please turn the page. So, the Ohio Medical Marijuana Control Program offers a safe and effective treatment for patients. So this program essentially regulates legal distribution of medical marijuana to patients with qualifying conditions. This program is controlled by the State of Ohio Board of Pharmacy. So according to the pharmacy, there are 25 conditions that are accepted to qualify for medical marijuana treatment, including AIDS, pain, epilepsy, Parkinson's, and many more. Now you may be wondering, so how does a patient with one or more of these qualifying conditions seek medical marijuana treatment? Well, first, they must get approved by a CTR or certified to recommend physician. Once they are approved, a patient is issued a medical marijuana card with a recommended dosage by the doctor. Now there are limitations to the amount a patient may purchase. For instance, they cannot exceed a 90-day supply, nor they cannot exceed the recommended dosage. Please turn the page. Medical marijuana also helps combat the opioid epidemic. As you can see in this graph obtained from the National Institute of Drug Abuse, we see the number of drug overdose deaths involving opioids in Ohio. However, in 2016, you do see a slow downward trend in the deaths, particularly pertaining towards the prescription opioid-related deaths. In fact, this year, House Bill 523 was passed, effectively legalizing the use of medical marijuana for patients. So this graph does suggest that the option of having a medical marijuana for pain treatment as an alternative to prescribed opioids can result in a decrease of opioid prescription-related deaths. To support this idea is an analysis from Medicare Part D. In their statement, it said, when medical marijuana laws went into effect in any given state, opioid prescriptions fell by 2.21 million daily doses filled per year. Now, when medical marijuana dispensaries opened, prescriptions for opioids fell by 3.74 million daily doses. So it's hard to deny the positive effect that medical marijuana has on combating the opioid epidemic. If you'll please turn the page. Now, there is a need for medical marijuana dispensaries within Butler County. At the start of the program, which began in 2016, they estimated there would be anywhere from 12,000 to 24,000 new patients after 2 years. Well, currently, as of May 28, 2021, we have 207,105 registered patients. That's averaging 10,500 new patients every month. This is far exceeding the initial estimate. So you can see how there is a need for it within the state. Currently, you can see this yellow area where Butler County is. There's 2 dispensaries with roughly 5,817 registered patients. Now, the program is proposing to have a total of 5 dispensaries within this area because they say they want to address the high patient count in this area. And if you'll please turn the page. Lastly, medical marijuana will help businesses, will help the local economy.
1 minute left.
Okay. So in total, there has been $434 million generated in medical marijuana sales in Ohio. There's one dispensary, the Ohio Cannabis Company, that has brought in more than $500,000 in sales tax revenue in local economy. This was brought to us by the Coshocton Tribune. So as there are other ways that dispensaries contribute locally, such as donating profits of their sales. Also, it would provide job opportunities. We could hire local residents, train the employees so they're qualified to assist the patients, and also we provide greater salaries that are greater than minimum wage. And I want to thank you again for giving us the opportunity to speak in front of you today, and I'll leave it up to Q&A if you have any.
Okay. Any questions from council? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Dan Hancock. Name and address, please.
My name's Dan Hancock. I live at 67 Herman Avenue in Hamilton, Ohio. And the traffic light at B and Park Street does not work properly. The traffic on coming off of High Street bridge there up to B Street was full. There was a car all the way over to the other side of the bridge, and the traffic light stayed red for both B Street and coming off of the ramp there. And that's not just a one-time thing. It happens almost every day. And there's 5 businesses there on B Street that come down to that light, and they have to sit there. So like I said, it's a problem. And also, if you're going to have for the Spooky Nook there and that, you need to start correcting the traffic lights. And also the ramp that you only put there, you only put for 3 cars to turn to go up to Spooky Nook. That was should have been a bigger turn off there for people in that, because you're going to have over 5,000 cars there coming up there. That's just too short of a thing there for cars, and then they're going to back them over the bridge again. The other thing is on Main Street there at the firehouse, you're coming down the street there, and there's a sign there that says, "Do not block the driveway to the fire station." Well, you got 5 people firemen that parked their car in the driveway there because they don't use that entrance coming off out of there onto Main Street to come off of Millville now. So you need to move the sign off of Main Street and put it onto Millville Avenue. The next thing is coming down Eaton Avenue used to have a sign saying, "Do not block the intersection at Mark and Eaton." Well, since you remodeled the street, you took the sign down, and you got a sign there saying that the turn lane in the middle ends in that. Well, you don't have a line across here, and people get in that turn lane, they just going straight ahead like they're going to turn on the Northwest Washington Boulevard. You need to put a yellow line across there so people know that that ends there, and do not block the intersection. You need to put that sign back up. And also there at flubs there where you'd put the new pathway coming for the bike trail. You come down, you put all new curbing in and that. It looks nice and that, but you're going to have to turn around and rip it back up instead of when you put it in the first place to put the ramp down there for the bike trail going across here. Now we're going to have to rip up all that new concrete, put the ramp down to go across the bike path there on both sides of the street. That's more of my taxpayer money that's going to cost to rip that back up when it should have been done in the first place. So, and I've got a lot more other things, but I don't have enough time, so I'll do it next time.
You listed 5 things. I wrote down 5. Rich, did you get those written down? I know the city manager, I think, was writing them down too. So, the in park, the ramp, do not block sign by the firehouse, Mark and Eaton block, and then the flubs, bike trail, curb.
Yeah, like I said, you got the firemen sitting in the driveway, and that they don't use it anymore, and you still got the sign, do not block the intersection there and that, so you need to remove it and put it over on Millville, because people coming down Millville, there's no sign there for them and that, and you need to put like flashing lights up so when the fire engines come out, people know that they're getting ready to come out and to stop.
We took the notes, and then it'll be looked into by our professionals.
Mr. Mayor?
Please.
I do have a question.
Please.
The B at Park traffic signal, and you said it's queuing up onto the ramp. What time of day is that, sir?
All times of the day. Yeah, basically, in the afternoon, like I said, it was blocked. I mean, the people were stopped in that, and there was a car, one right after another, from B Street all the way around the ramp, all the way across the bridge and that. And I was coming down B Street there to go through the intersection, and I had, like I said, I had a red light. We both had red lights, and it didn't last for just a minute or two. It lasted for almost 3 minutes before it finally changed.
Mr. Mayor.
Please.
Chief Eichelberger, could you ask your folks at Station 24 what they prefer in terms of how they get in and out? I want the recommendation to come from the actual firehouse and how you operate the firehouse versus us just trying to guess. So whatever that is, if you don't mind putting that right into council so we can take a look at that, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Thanks, Dan.
Yep.
That takes care of audience and citizens. We now go to the consent agenda. And that includes matters such as all meeting minutes, all staff reports, and the caucus reports. Into the committee of the whole, which allows council to consider all the reports on the consent or caucus agenda under suspended rules that normally would apply to city council. It allows us on council to ask questions, provide direction, and comment. So I motion the regular meeting be recessed and the committee of the whole take place.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Councilmember Fear, seconded by Councilmember Ryan. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, that motion is carried. It is 6:45. We are going to go into this consent agenda. I guess there's items 2 through 18, but not necessarily all of them. On the screen, do we have that by number or by presenter, as far as chronological?
We have
order, or is it by presenter?
We have it. We have a presentation for all of them, but they're kind of lumped in numerical order, but also based on who has the most. So I have Tom first, then Liz, and then they're kind of single after that. Or
sounds great to me. So why don't you lead us through this then? You said Tom's first?
Yes.
Okay. Probably number 2, number 16, I think number 18. Those 3, I believe.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, people watching at home. My name is Tom Vanderhorst. I'm the Executive Director of External Services, and I'm here to talk to you about caucus items number 2 for reappointing Hamilton Community Authority members, item number 16, amending the management agreement with the Hamilton Parks Conservancy, and number 18, to grant to the Hamilton Community Improvement Corporation for business assistance. So tonight, it was great when we got to celebrate some of our teammates that, had great achievements, and these are some other teammates that we have throughout our community. These are 3 entities of the city. 2 of them don't have employees. 1 of them do, which is Parks Conservancy. So these groups, so the Hamilton Community Authority, what What the proposed legislation does is it just reappoints the members of the Hamilton Community Authority that are already the members. You'll see the listing. Sam Byler, the chair, and Dan Bates, the vice chair. John Kirsch, who was here earlier, is the treasurer, and Stacy Dietrich Dudas and myself are members of the City of Hamilton employees that are on this. And so what is the Hamilton Community Authority? This is something that was created in 2017. You'll have access to this presentation. There's a link to the Ohio Revised Code, Section 349, that is the empowering legislation. And the property owners who wish to participate in this must ask for their properties to be enrolled, so that's important. Right now, we have a couple of hotels in the Spooky Nook project that are members of this. And currently, the community authority, like I said, it has no employees. So the accomplishments and the purposes of the community authority: issued debt for improvements associated with Spooky Nook, and it is financed and it pays for these improvements through the facilities use charges. They are going to look like and be collected the same way that a lodging tax would. In this particular case, there's a 3% transient occupancy tax to our code in the Hamilton codified ordinances that outline how that's collected, and there's a 1% sales tax. So these facility use charges are nice because they are actually levied upon the parcels that benefit from the capital improvements of the project. And again, this is like Liberty Center. This is sort of what we modeled it after. And number 16, this is caucus item number 16, amending the management agreement with the Hamilton Parks Conservancy. So what does this proposed legislation do? It is an extension through 2024 of the current agreement with two-year renewals. This establishes funding levels, and it adds a couple of items in there that you'll see. There's a 50-50 paving grant that was added beginning in 2021. I think you'll see a lot of the nice work that's being done around the community and the parks that are being repaved now, and that's how that was funded. So it adds Foundation Field to the list of Hamilton Parks Conservancy managed assets, and it removes the High Main Bridge from the Hamilton Parks Conservancy assets under management. So what is a Hamilton Parks Conservancy? It's a 501c3. It has its own board and staff members. It has an annual budget of about $3.5 million and manages about 1,300 acres of city-owned assets. So the timeline of the Parks Conservancy, it was created by this council in 2015. The parks had the golf courses added to their management agreement 2020, and this 2021 legislation is mostly an extension of what the current agreement is. So here are members of the Parks Conservancy. Steve Timmer is the outgoing director. Audrey Baker's the office manager, and this is why you shouldn't let Jacob do your presentations. So there's the board members underneath that. So Carla's on the board, and I'm the treasurer, and Kathy Klink, former council member, is also on the board. So these are the likely funding levels. This is what you're going to see in the management agreement, and these are have to be approved by council in order for the funding levels to be met. This is what we anticipate them to be, but this is going to be put in the final budget that's adopted each year.
If I may, just on what's on the screen, you'll see in 2022 there's a placeholder under capital improvements for $175,000. That's for the Crawford House. It's on city property, but it's been vandalized over and over again. I had a conversation with Director Steve Timmer about this property, and we both agree that until someone is residing in there on a consistent basis, every time we put money into it, it continues to get vandalized. We believe the best course of action is to improve it into a structure that we can then rent to someone. Steve has done this successfully at Joyce Park and some other areas, and that's why you see that as a placeholder in the 2022 line item.
And I think something else that's important to point out in this table is the bike path funding. You'll see that is stepping up as the belt line is completed on the other side of the river, and this contemplates providing additional funding to take care of that, just like the Parks Conservancy does the bike path that's on the east side of the river. And finally, number 18, this is a grant to the Hamilton Community Improvement Corporation for business assistance. What this proposed legislation is contemplating doing is providing a grant to the Community Improvement Corporation for up to $450,000. This business assistant grant is to provide funding for things such as ADA accessibility for bathrooms, fire suppression, hood system. The anticipated structure of this, which is going to have to be approved by the Community Improvement Corporation, is planned to be a 50-50 grant and a $75,000 cap on in any individual project. And why are we doing this? This is modeled after the upper floor residential rehab program that's currently being administered by the Community Improvement Corporation. This is really helpful because it activates the reuse of challenging buildings. There's several buildings that we have ran into issues with, and this hopefully will provide some assistance to help with some of our historical building stock. And this provides a path forwards for surprises identified during interdepartmental review.
I may just very quickly on that also, we hear from a lot of people that are living next to properties that are either not being used or underutilized because owners don't have the funds necessary to make improvements. Even on the hood replacement, there's a couple. There's Andy's Cafe, I think, about on Main Street, also Ohio Lunch. A lot of like small businesses like that never had the capital needed to make some of the hood improvements that were necessary by code. We have a lot of buildings that were built well before certain fire suppression standards were in place. That's can get very costly. I know in the former Ohio Casualty complex that they have been slowly installing fire suppression. And Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, they're going to have over $1 million just invested in fire suppression.
Yeah, it gets pricey. It gets pricey. I mean, you look at old buildings like the Davis building, for example, where they had to install a wheelchair ramp.
Yeah, so this is really to help accelerate people's ability to get into some of these buildings that are, like I said, underutilized or not being utilized. And instead of sitting empty and growing weeds, we're trying to help people find that path forward.
And that is all I have.
I think we have, 51 or 52 parks in this city now, is that right, Tom? Include the river as a park, I guess.
I tell you what, I don't know. There's a lot. I mean, Steve will tell me, there's a problem over at this park. I was like, okay, well, where's that one? It's a lot. I think there's about 1,400 acres, and Steve keeps telling me he can regurgitate these facts better than I can, is that, our acres per capita is like off the charts high.
Other cities would probably love to have a park.
Absolutely.
Like we have. Question about the Park Avenue ramp. Who's going to take over the maintenance of that area?
I got that. That's the city of Hamilton has taken over the maintenance of that. So we've entered into a contract with a local landscape company that does other high visibility corridors for us.
Great. Any questions from council? Thank you, Tom. Okay, who do we have up next, Colin?
We have Liz Hayden, Director of Planning, next.
Street and 10th Avenue there, you got a building that's all boarded up. You got 5 windows that are boarded up. The other ones that are not boarded up are being, bricks and, you've broken the windows out.
Oh, I'm just Good evening. I'm Liz Hayden, Director of Planning. So the first project on Caucus we have is 702 Northwest Washington Boulevard, a request for a conditional use a drive-through car wash on property zoned B2 community business and a replat for a lot split. So what you see up here is a map trying to kind of show you where this is. This is the Gun Eden Shopping Center, and they're proposing a car wash behind the First Financial or Applebee's. So you can see it's kind of set back from the street. And this gives you an overview of the building proposal. It is primarily brick. It is 2 different colors of brick. And then those windows that they're showing that are dark color are actually full transparency. Their model is they like to have it open so people can watch the cars being washed. So those are full transparency windows. The project met the commercial design standards in all ways except for the They did request a variance for their sign that you see is the plane on the side of the building. It is technically a sign because there's a small logo and mascot on it, but Planning Commission recommended approving the variance for the size, given the size of the actual marketing that's on the plane or on the image, and that it's actually facing backwards into the parking lot. Does anyone have any questions about this project?
Can we go back to that other slide, the first one?
Yes.
First one, Applebee's is on the right?
Apple's in the far left.
Far left.
Okay, so that's taking up the front of Planet Fitness's parking lot.
Yes.
Okay, so I was mistaken where it was going. Okay.
Yeah.
That'll make Applebee's a little bit happier. So, all right. Are they going to have access out to Main Street also through that entrance over there?
They will have all access, but the way our zoning code states that every parcel has to have actual street frontage. It has to touch a public street. So they have their parcel come, they couldn't just have like a parcel within the development. So yes, but everybody will still have access to all the access points into that shopping center.
Anticipated date that they're talking?
They're waiting to hear from you all. They seem to be ready to go.
Okay. I know a lot of people want a car wash in Hamilton, Ohio, so, okay, great.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, Liz, correct me if this is wrong, but if they have no comments, then that's essentially tacit approval that this can move forward.
Correct.
If they do have comments, then it would go back onto a council agenda in the future.
Yep.
So this is your opportunity. If there's any questions, detailed questions, any comments you have, otherwise it's done after tonight. Otherwise, it can be brought back.
So just to clarify, sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Please go ahead.
The only issue that the Planning Commission just wants us to take a look at is just the logo.
They want you to approve everything. You have final say over the whole project because a car wash as a use is a conditional use that needs city council's approval.
Okay.
Any questions or comments? That was number 3. Number 4 next.
All right. So this is 8340 North Gilmore. Site map for context, where it's at. It's out near Sims and abuts the Gilmore Ponds Metro Park. And this is not the first time you've seen this property recently. It actually got a conditional use approval in March 2020 for an automobile auction business. Has since gone out of business, but they had done a bunch of site improvements that you can see here where they built a new building, added fencing, paving, landscaping, and so those improvements remain, but they left. And so there's the proposal is a condition, the new business is a conditional use. It is, they rent construction equipment. So you can see that equipment in that picture on the bottom. And so they came to Planning Commission, and Planning Commission recommended approval of this proposal. However, one of the parts of the proposal that came to Planning Commission was adding fuel tanks, and that part got tabled so that they could provide better information to make sure they were protecting wetlands, the wetlands in Gilmore Ponds, excuse me. So if this gets approved by City Council, ultimately, there will be another application coming to you in the next few months that it has to do with fuel tanks. And that is the summation of my report for this one, if you have any questions.
Just a question, because fuel tanks is coming back to Planning Commission, and that was quite a lengthy discussion. It was very well thought out and very well presented by planning, and the questions from planning were very good as well. So they'll be able to start on this project, and as a result, no issues with this tonight. They can actually start on the project.
Right, they can start operating their equipment share business. They cannot install the fuel tanks, so that's the one part that they couldn't, but every other aspect they could.
Right, but then they'll come to council again on the fuel tank issue.
Yes.
Okay, great. Any questions for Ms. Hayden about number 4? All right. Number 7 next.
Great. So we have two different text amendment caucus items on your agenda tonight. The first is a general zoning ordinance text amendment. I won't go into this to summarize. Everything but one thing is just like kind of, for lack of a better word, a cleanup, because as you all know, a few months ago we adopted a overhauled zoning ordinance, and with that comes just finding things that need to be fixed. So this is our first round of fixing some things that we that we like worded wrong or grammatical, that kind of thing. The one change we are proposing though is to our fence section. We fencing it results in probably the most, if not second most, variance applications, and it's people that live on side lots. So essentially they live on the corner of 2 streets, sometimes 3 streets, and we treat their side yard just like we treat a front yard. And this is an attempt to address that side yards are different than front yards if the correct conditions are met. And so it's written, the proposed addition is, for properties with multiple frontages, fences are limited to a height of 48 inches. Right now, they're limited to 3.5 feet, however many inches that is, on secondary frontages, provided it meets site clearance and is not located in the primary front yard setback. So you still can't have a 4-foot fence in your front yard, but if it's behind house essentially in your side yard and it doesn't cause any site triangle issues with traffic, then it would be permitted. And then the other proposal that we had was to, right now you can do an 8-foot fence in your backyard. We're proposing to change that to 6 foot. I've been in the planning department for a little over 4 years. I have not seen anybody submit a permit for a residential fence that's 8 foot tall, but people inquire about it sometimes, and it's just pretty tall. So we were recommending that change. And that's the end of this presentation for this text amendment change.
Any questions or comments? Thank you.
The second round of changes is specific to school-related projects. So schools can be medium to high-intensity uses that are often pretty close to residential uses. And we have had a handful of recent inquiries from schools to do projects that led us to look at our rules and identify areas that could possibly be updated, and so are proposing them for your review. Once we decided to update them, we talked to legal counsel at Frost Brown Todd, and they provided some examples of cities in Ohio that are doing similar, have similar types of objectives with their zoning ordinance related to schools. So they provided them from Hilliard and Pickerington, Ohio. And then it was just an opportunity to standardize our school-related regulations as well. So you can see generally, so primary and secondary schools would go, they're currently permitted in all districts. They would be changed to conditional. And then for colleges and universities, you can see that and I know these are like a lot of planning lingo and can't see the specific zoning districts, but essentially you can see that right now they're permitted in most districts except for the residential primarily residential districts, and we're proposing it to go to conditional so that it would need planning commission and city council review. And then vocational and trade schools right now are conditional in business districts and permitted in industrial districts, but they're not permitted or conditional in form-based zoning, which is like downtown districts, and in office districts, even though we've seen, for example, the School of the Arts, it would be considered a vocational school, that was a fit in our downtown. So trying to broaden that and then have the right conditions, because there's such a broad different kinds of vocational schools. Conditions of approval address if it's a high intensity, if it's using machinery, if it's loud, that kind of thing. or if it's, it needs outdoor training space, that those kinds of things that need to be in certain areas or, away from residential, that kind of thing. So we also are proposing adding, changing the parking regulations to take into account employees, not only students, but also employees for their parking regulations. Then we created standard conditions of approval for school uses to go along with the proposed conditional uses, and then updated and established consistent terminology throughout the document. Does anyone have any questions about this one?
Basically, you're updating it based upon kind of what some other cities have done. And at the impact of a school, and sometimes a large school area,
right,
on residential areas. That's all kind of
right. Yeah, some of the rules are about, that there's these intense periods of time where a lot of cars come on site, making sure that those parking and loading areas are buffered or a certain distance away from residential, that kind of thing.
Great. Questions, comments?
Mr. Mayor?
Please.
Liz, thank you, as we've talked for the past few years, for the uniformity and calling the herd down from thousands of pages to whatever it may be now, hundreds.
Right.
But you would promise you were going to continue this, so
yes.
Thanks for keeping that end
Yes.
going as you're doing. Thank you.
Great. All right. Thank you. Is that it, or do you have another one?
I have two more.
You have two more.
Two
Okay.
more.
Gardner Ridge.
So Ridge is coming for a preliminary and final plat for, I believe, their last phase. It's 25 single-family residential lots. The design is actually that the average lot size is 27,000 square feet, which our minimum is 10,000, so that's quite large. Everything else kind of meets our regular standards. This is an example of the houses that have been built in the second phase, which it's the same developer building out this phase. Does anyone have any questions about this one?
Thank you.
Last one's very easy. So North D Street Alley, there's a petition to vacate this from Park Avenue Alley to Main Street. It is right in the middle of the proposed Rossville Flats, and the two other alleys on this block have been vacated, but this one was not, so it needs to go through the process. Anyone have any questions?
Sounds good. Thank you. Who's that, Pat, next?
We have Dave Jones up next. And if you guys want to, I mean, if council has questions, we can go through specific presentations for specific items on the caucus agenda, or we can keep going. It's up to council.
I think it's going okay. All right, Dave.
So I'm pretty short. Good evening, Mayor, members of council. So the city is currently in the process of submitting the tax budget to the Butler County Auditor. It's due on July 20th. Excuse me. This slide just gives a high overview of actually what a tax budget is. Tax budget is a tool for a political subdivision and taxing authority to assess its financial condition and then possibly place a tax levy on the ballot if necessary. It's often used to allocate the state shared revenue or the local government fund. We do submit the tax budget to the Butler County Budget Commission, which consists of the county auditor, county treasurer, and the county prosecutor. There'll be a public hearing on the tax budget at the next council meeting, August 11th, and tax budget will be available for public inspection on or after July 20th. You can email Crystal Hall at the email address on the screen, or you can call her at 513-785-7159. We'll also work to get that on the website so you could click on that and see it. That's all I have. You guys have any questions?
Questions?
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
And the next one's Tim Wordman for caucus item number 6.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Tim Wordman, Executive Director of Internal Services.
I'm here with regard to a caucus item related to the Booker T. Washington agreement. The city's contracted with the Great Miami Valley YMCA to run and program the BTW Center since 2013. We've had a series of agreements since that time. The most recent agreement did expire on June 30th, 2021. You'll have a resolution at the next meeting asking you to approve a new renewal agreement that'll run through June 30th of 2025. It also provides for 2 automatic 1-year renewals at the end of the initial term unless somebody says otherwise. So there's an option there to not renew at that point. Really, the most significant amendment to the agreement at this point would be to allow the YMCA to sublease the kitchen facility for a catering facility that they're interested in. And I don't know that they're still in serious negotiations for that because we started this process back in the fall, actually. But if they did, any improvements to the kitchen would be done by the lessee. So there would actually be a potential for some kitchen improvements at the BTW Center as part of this. But the agreement itself would allow for the sublease to occur. If there's any other questions, I'd be happy to.
No question. I just want to say thanks to City Manager for putting that partnership together. I think it was 2013. I think it's been a very successful partnership, and a lot of positive things have happened over there.
Up next, we have Rich Engel for caucus item number 11.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, members of the community. First of all, I have to apologize. Well, Rich Engel, Director of Engineering, I have to apologize. This is a rather lengthy caucus report on our traffic regulations. We haven't brought this before council in a number of months now, and we'll try and be more prompt in bringing it more often so you can see what changes are being made. But essentially, we're asking for traffic legislation to be added for various handicap, no loading zones, 30-minute parking, and no parking on school days, and then repealing other traffic legislation that has ended its use at the moment, such as handicap, no parking, and 90-minute parking. So as residential and business needs change, parking restrictions must change with it. So traffic engineering administers the entire process from the initial call from the resident or commercial business. And the purpose and need of the request, we field verify those requests and then do local or state standard reviews, signage installation, and finally traffic code amendment to City Council. So that's the purpose of this caucus report this evening. Do you have any questions on that or any specifics you have?
Questions? Thank you, Rich.
Thank you.
And then I believe we have Jim Williams in the audience tonight. If council has any questions about caucus item number 12, he does a presentation, but he's here to answer any questions.
Any questions about 12 that we could ask Mr. Williams about? If not, we will move on. Unless you want to say something about it, Jim?
No, sir. I'm just standing if you'd like to address.
Any questions for Mr. Williams about number 12? We're good with it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, and then the next 2 items will be 13 and 14, which I believe City Manager Joshua Smith has a few slides prepared for this, if you want to present them.
I do, thank you. Both of my topics are with respect to the Schuler-Benninghofen Mill located on Pleasant Williams and Lindenwald. Next slide, please. We have been working for a couple years now to find a developer that would be interested in investing into this very historic property. We tend to have a lot of conversations about significant architectural structures in our community, and one of the biggest challenges is always finding funding to improve those. Old buildings like this obviously cost a lot of money to renovate on a variety of levels, so we were beyond thrilled when we were able to make contact with a group that's led by Bloomfield Sean. In a following slide, I'll show you some of their projects around Greater Cincinnati, but Bloomfield Sean would be the controlling partner and the lead developer for this project. What we have asked them to do, and I'm going to both of mine sort of merged together, so if you don't mind, I'm going to sort of jump back and forth between the proposed development agreement and the purchase agreement. But we have worked with them where we've asked them to hire the consultant to place the building on the National Historic Register. The reason that is important, eligible for state and federal historic tax credits until it's been registered. So both Steve Bloomfield and Ken Sean are architects by profession. At no cost, they would prepare the architectural plans to submit for the historic tax credits. So they would hire the consultant to get the building placed on the National Historic Register. They would personally prepare the architectural plans on behalf of the city, and then they would apply for historic tax credits. One last thing is they're also asking to apply for transformational mixed-use development credits, which are new in the last 12 months in the Ohio budget. So what they've asked the city is to acquire the property for $650,000. We would set aside $100,000 at time of closing for holding costs. I'll get back to why that number is important in a moment. And once the developer milestones have been met, the city would transfer tax credits in the building with a one-time grant of $695,000 to this entity that would be restoring it. The mayor and I had a conversation with the Hamilton City School District earlier this morning. We're working with them right now to work on a 15-year property tax abatement. They've asked to tour the facility and also see some of the other properties that this group has worked on. So if you can go to the next slide, please. I think, let me just maybe start from the beginning because I didn't maybe flow exactly the way I thought I was going to. They're asking the city to buy the property for $650,000. After we buy the property, they're going to hire a consultant to get it on the National Historic Register. Once that is successful, then they can submit plans for the state and federal historic tax credits. The next funding application they think that they would be eligible for is in March of 2022. So in 2021, they would work to get it on the National Historic Register. Once it's on that, the plans would be submitted on behalf of the city, since technically we would be buying it, we'd be the current owner in March of 2022. Within 90 days of submitting the tax credit application, they will know if they receive the tax credits, if they don't receive the tax credits. So let's make an assumption for now that they do receive them sometime, call it spring or early summer of 2022. That would trigger the sale of the building to the developers for $1. So we buy it for $650,000 and we would sell it to them for $1 under this development agreement. We would provide them a one-time grant of $695,000 once the property is transferred. The development agreement stipulates that they have to invest a minimum of $20 million into the building. It has to have a minimum of 100 apartment units, and it has to have a minimum of 10,000 square feet of commercial space. To give you reference, the Markham Apartments have 102 units, and they have 10,000 square feet of commercial space below them. So that would be essentially the size, the number of apartments, but also the number of businesses. So if they subdivided that 10,000 square feet similar to what the Markham mixed-use project did, we would have 5 businesses as part of that project. Their building is actually bigger than the Markham, so they would also include a minimum of 50 parking spaces indoors. So they would actually have a garage where you would go inside and park your car inside, which I think is a very cool amenity. So again, so just to recap, we buy the building for $650,000, and if they are successful on their historic tax credit application, we would sell it to them. Let's talk about what happens if they are not successful. They have never not received a historic tax credit or grant once they've applied for it. If they do not receive the credits, then the city would remain the owner and we would owe them nothing else. So we would just buy the building for $650,000. We would retain ownership. No other money leaves our hands. So why are we talking about this project? Well, Lindenwold is our largest neighborhood in the city of the 17 neighborhoods. It also has the 3rd largest business district outside of downtown and Main Street. At the 2017 State of the City address, we talked about our intention to start pivoting resources. We saw a lot of success on High Street. We've seen a lot of success on Main Street. We believe it's time to start putting some resources into Lindenwold. For many years, we've tried to find different developers. We've toured a lot of different developers of the site, and the project is so complex, so large, and frankly, it's very expensive. $20 million plus is just to give you an idea, I believe the developer spent about $9 million on the historic Mercantile Loft project, which is obviously it's got some commercial on the bottom and 29 apartment units above it. Again, Ken Sean and Steve Bloomfield are the two principals at Bloomfield Sean. They would be there's other developers involved in this project, but they would be the lead developers. And we've been talking to Miami University Hamilton for a couple years now. This intersection is very, very important to them. It's very important to Lindenwold. It's very important to Hamilton. And as we work with Miami Hamilton to continue their expansion efforts, the housing and commercial piece is very important to them. Next slide, the final slide, will show you some of the projects that Bloomfield Sean has worked on. The one that they finished most recently is the Peters Cartridge Factory. That was a $30 million mixed-use development over in the Kings Island area. The American Can building in the north side of Cincinnati was the first one that I ever saw of theirs that I was familiar with. They completed that shortly after I arrived in Hamilton, because I remember touring that when that was under construction. But you can see that they did the historic Ford factory. They've done the lofts at 6 Mile Creek, a couple different school projects. But so this is right in their wheelhouse. This is about a $20 million project. The Peters Cartridge Factory is a $30 million project. I don't know how to pronounce the one, Cayuga Place, was a $20 million project, but you can see this is right in the middle of the type of projects that they have worked on over the years. They're both architects, I think is very important. And the fact that they understand adaptive reuse of historic buildings is very important. If anyone saw the Peters Cartridge Factory before they started, I mean, many developers looked at that and they just couldn't figure out how to pull that together. They were able to do that in a very successful fashion. Again, thrilled that someone of their caliber is interested in this. Obviously, there's a lot of hurdles to get through. They have to get it on the National Historic Registry, which I don't think will be problematic. They have to apply for the historic tax credits. Again, they've never been denied on any project they've ever done, but they're also applying for the Transformational Mixed-Use Development Credit, again, which is relatively new in Ohio, and to me would probably be the biggest hurdle they would have to get over. That's a $1.5 million hurdle. So the risk for City Council, as you're evaluating this, is if we buy it and for whatever reason they're not successful and any of these, nothing triggers in the sale to them, then we would own that building longer term and we would have to find a new developer. The other thing that you'll be hearing, city staff is preparing a brief presentation on ARPA funds on August 11th. We believe, we've been working with our auditor, we believe this would be an eligible expense for ARPA funds. We're trying to get that in writing. I think we'll have that in writing by August 11th. But you'll be hearing some of the city staff's suggestions on ARPA funds at the August 11th meeting, but this will certainly be in the mix for that conversation. So again, just being introduced tonight, it will be on the August 11th council agenda for action. I would be happy to entertain any questions.
Any questions for the city manager?
Mr. Mayor.
Please.
On the ARPA funds, when do we have to have our decisions made by? I look at something else.
I'm sorry, I was looking. Dave was very slow to grab the microphone.
So you don't necessarily have to make a decision on the supplemental appropriation tonight. You are voting to appropriate the funds. I guess we would take suggestions on how you wanted to use them. I don't think you would necessarily have to vote on how you use them.
No, I don't mean that.
I think what Councilperson Fear is saying is, does the federal government, once they are dispersed to us, do we have to spend them within a specific time frame?
So you have until 12/31/24, but you do not get the next round of funding, which is due in June of 22, and until you spend the first round of funding.
Okay.
So we now have 16.8 million. Until that is spent, we do not get any more.
Okay. Thank you for clarity.
You're welcome. Sorry about that.
Okay, that's okay. Thank you.
Listen, I've learned how to speak Dave Jones language after a couple of years.
Mr. Mayor.
Please.
Joshua, I got, again, if the TMUD is new and if they don't get the TMUD and they get the other historical tax credits, what's the backup plan?
The backup plan would be the city. So if the city wants to proceed at that point, we would have to fill the gap on the TMUD.
Which is 1.5 million.
Up to 1.5. It's possible that they could get 800,000 of the 1.5 or 1.2 of the 1.5 or all of it. The program is so new, we just don't know.
I got one more question. The $100,000 we have for the holding on this, is that for expenses of the building while it's sitting there?
Yes, so that, and I think that's a pretty conservative number, and that projects 24 months of holding costs.
Okay, because maybe I missed something. I thought it was right around $12,000 a month is what we estimated that it was going to cost us.
The number that we worked on was, we thought $100,000 would get us, and to be clear about that, the development agreement contemplates that they're going to also invest some money, so that could be possible because ours was on the utility side and some other sides, and we were asking them to handle the securing of the facility and some others.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
Mr. Mayor?
Please.
For item number 18, if we could pull that item and have a separate motion for the recommendation for that.
You want to do 15 first and then go ahead and pull 18 and read 18 separately? You do that?
Yes, that's fine, Mr. Mayor.
Right. We have one person here. I think, Lauren, are you here for number 15 or not? Yes. Okay. No questions anymore about Schuler Benninghoff, and I think that's, well, we got two left. Lauren, if you're ready, is that next in line?
Yes.
Thank you.
There we go. Good evening. I'm Lauren Nelson, Project Manager with Economic Development, and I am here tonight to talk about the proposed project, the 514 Maple Avenue, which is the historic building about a block away from us here that is electric substation number 2. Sorry. Here we go. So this building is historically designated both at the state level and locally. It was built in 1935. Beautiful building for those of you that have not walked through it. It's a very cool building. Has always served as an electric substation for the city. It has been decommissioned, and both economic development with cooperation from our infrastructure staff have been seeking redevelopment prospect for this property for a little over 3 years, I think. We've toured a lot of people through this property. It seemed like we finally generated some legitimate interest in it, and so moved forward with a request for proposal earlier this year in the spring. And 2 submissions were received that were reviewed by an internal staff, multidisciplinary or multi-department staff committee reviewed both proposals, and ultimately the Great Miami Brewing Company LLC proposal, doing business as Amp House Brewing, is the entity or the proposal that staff is recommending that the city move forward with. They are interested in doing brewery and distillery operations at this location and sort of paying homage to the electrical history of the building, hence the name. They are also working with some investors so that they're sort of everything that they do in terms of their redevelopment of the property is energy efficient. The proposed purchase price is $10,000, and their RFP response that you all have, you'll see that their initial purchase price that they proposed was significantly higher than that. However, that was dependent on sort of what type of environmental remediation they're going to have to do at that property. And so sort of after further investigation and additional conversations with them about the cleanup costs, that's why the number that now is in front of you is lower than what was originally in their response back in May. They also have already reached out to CSX, and the city has also reached out to CSX on their behalf. They are looking to acquire the CSX parcels that are adjacent to this property that are, I'll show you on the next slide. They also are already speaking to the property owner to the east of the substation which is Hinkle Auto Body, and they have a verbal agreement already with the Hinkles to utilize some of their property. So here's sort of a screenshot. So in blue is the substation property. You'll see in orange is property that's owned by the railroad, which basically is just sort of a gravel parking lot at this point. It is not contiguous to the active rail line, so it is not used by the railroad any longer. We just are trying to get them in connection with, the appropriate point person at CSX to make an offer to acquire that property. They are looking to utilize it for parking and then some outdoor, outdoor beer garden space. And then I believe their conversations with Hinkle have been that they would be utilizing the large warehouse building that's closest to the city's property there for some of their operations, as well as sort of that larger red strip running behind all of those properties is just green space. So it sort of, make their outdoor beer garden and entertainment space a lot larger. Plus they would have access to additional indoor space in one of Hinkle's buildings. So the sale and development is what will be, a motion for all of that will be coming to you at the August meetings. If there are any questions about this project, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions?
It's great.
Great, thank you very much. We're excited about that.
Sure.
Okay, do we have one more left then?
Yes, we have one more for item number 17, presented by Ken Carrier.
Mayor, members, council, Ken Carrier, Director of IT. The Panzer network data storage solution, very high level, 3 main points, adding more ransomware protection for the city. This will also give us a bit of having an off-site cloud storage backup solution. And in the event the city should succumb to a ransomware attack, it will provide us the ability to recover faster. Does anyone have any questions?
My little knowledge, those are 3 very important things. They're key buzzwords up there that I'm glad that you're working with them, and it sounds like the right thing to do. Any questions by council? All right, great. Thank you, Ken. All right, so I think that takes care of 2 through 18. Motion that we pull one of those for a separate vote.
Before we pull those, if you find it necessary for good practice, I can read all those items on the caucus agenda into the record. Because
if you would do that, that'd be a good idea. Just so keep the record real clean, that would be great. Thank you, sir.
So the first item on the caucus agenda is a recommendation relative to reappointing members of the Board of Trustees for the Hamilton Community Authority. Item number 3 is a recommendation relative to 2 requests pertaining to a proposed car wash at 702 Northwest Washington Boulevard, crossings at Gun Eden Shopping Center, Flying Aces Express Car Wash LLC. 1, a conditional use certificate for a 1-story drive-through car wash automotive washing facility with a waiver request for signs of the Hamilton zoning ordinance section 1712, a 50% increase to the maximum allowable wall sign square footage, and 2, a replat of 702 Northwest Washington Boulevard, crossings at Gun Eden Shopping Center to split an out lot for the proposed car wash as 724 Northwest Washington Boulevard. Item number 4 is a recommendation relative to a request for conditional use to operate construction equipment rental business on property zoned I-2 industrial located at 8340 North Gilmore Road. Item number 5 is a recommendation relative to the adoption of the annual tax budget 2022 and a public hearing. Item number 6 is a recommendation relative to a management agreement with the Great Miami Valley YMCA to the Booker T. Washington Community Center. Item number 7 is a recommendation relative to a request to amend the zoning ordinance of the City of Hamilton, Ohio by amending several sections of the ordinance, Section 1250, Use Chart, Section 1500, Land Area Setback and Density Standards, Section 1700, Signs, Section 1800, Residential Design Standards, and Section 2600, Architectural Conservation / Historic District, City of Hamilton applicant. And then item number 8 is a recommendation relative to a request to amend the zoning ordinance of the City of Hamilton, Ohio by amending several sections of the ordinance related to school regulations, City of Hamilton applicant. Item number 9 is a recommendation relative to a request regarding the approval of the preliminary plat and final plat for Gardner Ridge, Section 3, consisting of 16.3 acres of the Gardner Ridge subdivision situated in the First Ward, North Side, JA Development LLC applicant. Item number 10 is a recommendation relative to a request to vacate a portion of North D Street Alley C located between Park Avenue Alley and Main Street, situated in the First Ward, North Side, City of Hamilton, Ohio, City of Hamilton applicant. Item number 11 is a recommendation relative to a request to amend various sections of the traffic code. Item number 12 is a recommendation relative to a request to amend 3 position qualifications within the Public Works Department of the Department of Infrastructure. Item number 13, a recommendation relative to a request authorizing and directing the city manager to execute a purchase and sale agreement and related actions related to certain real property located at 6151 through 661 Williams Avenue and 2350 Pleasant Avenue, Hamilton, Ohio 45015. Number 14 is a recommendation relative to a request authorizing and directing the city manager to execute a sale and development agreement, property conveyances, and related actions with BSM LLC Bloomfield shown regarding parcel numbers P6461040000043, P6461040000044, P6416040000045, the historic Schuler and Benninghofen Mill located in the city's urban renewal area. Number 15 is a recommendation relative to a request authorizing and directing the execution of the sale and development agreement and related actions with Great Miami Brewing Company, LLC, regarding 514 Maple Avenue, Hamilton, Ohio 45011, former substation number 2. Number 16 is a recommendation relative to amending the contract with the Hamilton Parks Conservancy to include golf course operations. Number 17 is a recommendation relative to the purchase of a 3-year subscription to Panzura Network Data Storage. And number 18 is a recommendation relative to a grant to the Community Improvement Corporation of Hamilton, Ohio.
Read into the record all the caucus agenda items.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a comment. When we received our packet last week, I can't tell you how excited I was at the activity, the diversity, and what's taking place in our city, where some of the caucus agenda items have been 2 or 3 statements in this list of some 18 different projects of touching all points. Liz talked about schools, we talked about businesses, we talked about development of property, we talked about investment in our community, we talked about Gardner Ridge, more homes in greater Hamilton and things. It's just phenomenal. So again, the work that staff are putting together on all of these projects and presentations tonight, the behind the scenes, the 500 pages of backup support documents that we received in this week's agenda is just incredible. So please don't take it lightly. Don't take your work lightly. We really, really appreciate these opportunities to expand our city and be able to grow in the future. Thank you.
Well stated. That is a caucus agenda. Is somebody wish to remove a particular one on here? I believe number 18 is one which should be
Yes,
removed.
18.
Is there a motion for that, please?
I make a motion that we pull number 18 from the caucus agenda.
Motion made by Councilmember Fear, second by Councilmember Ryan. Let's do a roll call vote on that, please.
Okay. Pullman?
Yes.
Fear?
Yes.
What?
Abstain.
I'm good on that.
Yeah, you're supposed to abstain.
Oh, I should abstain from that one. I'm sorry. Abstain, sorry.
Okay. Abstention for Pullman. Fear?
Yes.
Vaughn is absent. Ryan?
Yes.
Nab?
Yes.
Brown is absent. Moeller?
Yes.
Okay, that motion is adopted 4-1 with 1 abstention.
Okay. Now, we got to come out of the committee of the whole. Is there a motion to come out of the committee of the whole?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Ryan, second by Councilmember Fear. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, that motion is carried. come out of committee hole at 7:42. I'll set the motion that the regular meeting be reconvened.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Ryan, second by Councilmember Nab. Do a roll call vote on that, please, sir.
Pullman,
Yes.
Fear,
Yes.
Vaughn is absent, Ryan,
Yes.
Nab,
Yes.
Brown is absent, Moeller.
Yes.
Motion adopted, 5-0.
Okay. Now, is there a motion to the exception of Cox agenda item number 18, the council received the reports of the consent agenda and concur in their recommendations?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Nab, second by Councilmember Ryan. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, that motion is carried. That brings us to the public hearing section of the agenda. Now accept the motion that the regular meeting be recessed and the public hearings take place.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Vice Mayor Pullman, second by Councilmember Ryan. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, that motion is carried. The time for that is 7:43. Please read agenda item number 19 for the record, public hearing.
Regarding the use of the Bureau of Justice Assistance Body-worn camera policy and implementation program proposed to be received by the City of Hamilton, Ohio Police Division.
Okay. Anyone in the audience wishes to be heard at this public hearing involving the Bureau of Justice Assistance Body-worn camera policy implementation program? Chief, can you tell us anything a little bit about this at all?
Sure. Good evening, Mayor, members of council. This is a proposal for a grant that would assist in our acquisition and implementation of a body-worn camera program.
So there's a resolution tonight on the vote on this, I believe. Is that correct? We're voting on this tonight. Okay. This is to be able to get access to some grant monies for the body camera.
Correct.
Okay. Questions for Chief Buchheit on this? Anyone else in the audience wish to be heard at this particular public hearing involving the accessing some grant funds? Anyone on council wish to make a motion at this time or comment on it?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Fear?
My language here. There's no language on here. What do you want me to say?
Your motion to that public hearing number 19 be closed.
Be closed. There we go, next page. I move that the public hearing be closed. Thank you.
Second. Second, okay. Motion by Councilmember Fear, second by Councilmember Nab. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, that motion is carried. It is 7:45 when that particular public hearing is closed. Please read number 20 into the record, Mr. City Clerk.
A public regarding a Federal Justice Assistance Grant, JAG, funds proposed to be received by the City of Hamilton, Ohio Police Division.
Tell us about this, Chief.
Certainly, Mayor. This is just, it's another grant that is available that the Hamilton Police Department is eligible for. And again, we're just aggressively seeking grant funding to cover the cost of many equipment and initiatives that we can in order to obviously safeguard our tax dollars here at home. So this money in particular will be directed to the purchase of a cruiser. And we have used this particular grant and this funding stream for a number of years.
Thank you for seeking grants and securing those grants. Anyone else in the audience wish to be heard at this public hearing involving the Justice Assistant Grant Funds? Anyone on council wish to make a comment or make a motion at this time?
Mr. Mayor.
Vice Mayor Pullman.
Make a motion that the public hearing be closed.
Second.
Motion by Vice Mayor Pullman, second by Councilmember Ryan. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, that motion is carried. That public hearing is closed at 7:46. We now go to number 21, our third public hearing.
A public regarding the request to change the zoning for 423 and 425 and 427 South H Street from B2 Community Business to TN1 Traditional Neighborhood 1 District and establish zoning for the city-owned parcel P64122123000006.
Anyone in the audience wish to be heard at this public hearing involving this request to change the zoning, establish the zoning? Anyone in the audience wish to be heard? Hearing none, does anyone on council wish to be heard? Wish to make a motion at this time? Councilmember Knapp?
I move the hearing be closed.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Knapp, second by Councilmember Fear. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, that motion is carried. That public hearing is closed at 7:47. I'll accept the motion to regular meeting be reconvened.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Fear, second by Councilmember Ryan. Roll call vote to reconvene the regular meeting.
Pullman,
Yes.
Fear,
Yes.
Vaughn is absent, Ryan,
Yes.
Nab,
Yes.
Brown is absent, Moeller.
Yes.
Motion adopted 5-0.
Thank you. We now go to council actions pertaining to legislative items. We'll now accept the motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Ryan.
I move that a note be made upon the minutes that each member of council is furnished a printed copy of each item of legislation prior to its being considered at this meeting.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Ryan, second by Vice Mayor Pullman. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, that motion is carried. We now go to pending legislation, agenda item number 22, second reading of an ordinance involving supplemental appropriations.
An ordinance making supplemental appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Hamilton, Ohio during fiscal year ending December 31st, 2021, second reading.
Mr. Mayor,
Vice Mayor Pullman.
the ordinance be adopted.
Second.
Motion made by Vice Mayor Pullman, second by Councilmember Nab. Any comments or questions about this particular ordinance? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Pullman,
Yes.
Fear.
Yes.
Vaughn absent, Ryan,
Yes.
Nab,
Yes.
Brown is absent, Moeller.
Yes.
Ordinance adopted 5-0.
Thank you. We go to agenda item number 23, second reading of an ordinance involving a new classification of Assistant Director of Engineering.
An ordinance amending and supplementing Schedule A of the city's classification and compensation plan as set forth in emergency ordinance number EOR 2021-3-11, adopted March 10, 2021, to add a new classification of Assistant Director of Engineering, second reading.
Vice Mayor Pullman.
Make a motion that the ordinance be adopted.
Second.
Motion by Vice Mayor Pullman, second by Councilmember Ryan. Questions or comments on this one? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Pullman,
Yes.
Fear,
Yes.
Vaughn is absent, Ryan,
Yes.
Nab,
Yes.
Brown is absent, Moeller.
Yes.
Ordinance adopted 5-0.
Thank you. We go to agenda item number 24, second reading of an ordinance involving the classification of Traffic Operations Manager.
An ordinance amending and supplementing Schedule A of the city's classification and compensation plan as set forth in emergency ordinance number EOR 2021-3-11, adopted March 10, 2021, to amend the pay range for the classification of Traffic Operations Manager, second reading.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Nab.
Be adopted.
Second.
Councilmember Nab, second by Councilmember Fear. Questions, comments, discussion on this one? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Pullman,
Yes.
Fear,
Yes.
Vaughn is absent, Ryan,
Yes.
Nab,
Yes.
Brown is absent, Moeller.
Yes.
Ordinance adopted 5-0.
Go to agenda item number 25, second reading of an ordinance involving the purchase and related actions related to some West Fairway Drive.
An ordinance and directing the city manager to execute the purchase of a temporary easement and related actions related to certain real property located at West Fairway Drive, lot number 24036, parcel number P64121530000054, Marvin L. and Chrysula Rose, owner, City of Hamilton, applicant, second reading.
Mr. Mayor,
Ryan.
move that the ordinance be adopted.
Second.
Councilmember Ryan, second by Vice Mayor Pullman. Any comments or discussion on this one? Hearing none. Roll call vote.
Pullman,
Yes.
Fear,
Yes.
Vaughn is absent, Ryan,
Yes.
Nab,
Yes.
Brown is absent, Moeller.
Yes.
Ordinance adopted 5-0.
Go to agenda item number 26, which is a second reading of an ordinance involving the conveyance of real property to Primo Property Services.
An ordinance approving the conveyance of certain real property within the City of Hamilton, Ohio's urban renewal area to Primo Property Services, LLC, 1224 Schuler Avenue, second reading.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Fear.
Ordinance be adopted.
Second.
By Councilmember Fear, second by Councilmember Nab. Any comments or questions about this one? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Pullman,
Yes.
Fear,
Yes.
Vaughn is absent, Ryan,
Yes.
Nab,
Yes.
Brown is absent, Moeller.
Yes.
Ordinance adopted 5-0.
We go to agenda item number 27, second reading of an ordinance establishing various classifications in the Human Resources Department.
Amending and supplementing Schedule A of the city's classification and compensation plan as set forth in emergency ordinance number EOR 2021-3-11, adopted March 10, 2021, as amended from time to time to establish the classifications of Human Resources Business Partner 1 and Human Resource Business Partner 2, to amend the title for the positions of Civil Service and Personnel Director to Human Resources Director and Personnel Assistant to Human Resources Assistant, and to delete the classifications of Human Resources Generalist, Labor Relations / Risk Management Administrator, Personnel Analyst, and Personnel Specialist. Second reading.
Mr. Mayor,
Vice Mayor,
make a motion that the ordinance be adopted.
Second.
motion by Vice Mayor Pullman, second by Councilmember Nab. Questions or comments on this one? Roll call.
Pullman,
Yes.
Fear,
Yes.
Vaughn is absent, Ryan,
Yes.
Nab,
Yes.
Brown is absent, Moeller.
Yes.
Ordinance adopted 5-0.
Thank you. We go to new legislation now. Agenda item number 28, first reading of an ordinance involving the Lindenwald Connectivity Plan.
An ordinance, major amendment to Plan Hamilton, the city's comprehensive plan, adding the Lindenwald Connectivity Plan to the plan. City of Hamilton applicant, first reading.
Thank you. Agenda item number 29, first reading of an ordinance involving the new classification of natural gas compliance manager.
An ordinance amending and supplementing Schedule A of the city's classification and compensation plan as set forth in emergency ordinance number EOR 2021-3-11, adopted March 10, 2021, as amended from time to time by adding the new classification of natural gas compliance manager. First reading.
Thank you. Record reflect that all of these are on the screen here that we have in council chambers this evening. Agenda item number 30, first reading of an ordinance involving natural gas service.
An ordinance amending section 947.10 of the codified ordinances of the city of Hamilton, Ohio, relative to natural gas service. First reading.
Thank you. We go to agenda item number 31, first reading of an ordinance involving 316 South 5th Street.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the city manager to execute a purchase and sale agreement and related actions related to certain real property located at 316 South 5th Street, Hamilton, Ohio, 45011, parcel number P6441028000011, Trinity Fellowship Outreach, property owner, City of Hamilton, applicant. First reading.
We now go to agenda item number 32. First reading of an ordinance involving the zoning of South A Street, on South A Street.
An ordinance amending the City of Hamilton zoning ordinance number 7503 by changing the zoning of properties as 1, a zoning district change for 423 and 425 and 427 South A Street from B2 Community Business to TN1 Traditional Neighborhood 1 District, and 2, establish TN1 zoning on the vacant city-owned parcel number P6412123000006, City of Hamilton applicant. First reading.
Agenda item number 33, first reading of an emergency ordinance involving development agreement in 128 South C Street.
An emergency ordinance authorizing and directing the city manager to execute a sale and development agreement, property conveyances, and related actions with Vargas Properties LLC regarding 128 South C Street, Vargas Properties LLC, applicant. First reading.
Go to agenda item number 34, first reading of an emergency ordinance involving construction and repair of sidewalks and driveway aprons.
An emergency ordinance levying special assessments for public improvements in accordance with resolution number R 2020-2-10, adopted February 26, 2020, relative to the construction and repair of existing sidewalks and driveway aprons on various streets and avenues in the city of Hamilton, Ohio. Final assessment roll for the 2019 street resurfacing and concrete repair program. First reading.
Go to agenda item number 35, a resolution about the body camera program grants that was discussed at a public hearing.
A resolution ratifying and authorizing the police department to apply for funding for fiscal year 2021 Bureau of Justice Assistance Body Worn Camera Policy and Implementation Program grant to be used for law enforcement purposes and accepting said grant funds.
Mayor,
Councilmember Fear.
I move the resolution be adopted.
Motion by Councilmember Fear, second by Councilmember Nab. Comments or questions about this resolution? Hearing none, roll call.
Pullman.
Yes.
Fear.
Yes.
Vaughn is absent. Ryan.
Yes.
Nab.
Yes.
Brown is absent. Mueller.
Yes.
Resolution adopted 5-0.
Go to agenda item number 36. It's also a resolution and also involves some grant monies to be used for law enforcement purposes.
A resolution ratifying and approving the execution of an interlocal agreement and authorizing the police department to apply for funding for fiscal year 2021 Justice Assistance Grant JAG to be used for law enforcement purposes and accepting said grant funds.
Mayor,
Vice Mayor Pullman.
motion that the resolution be adopted.
Second.
Motion by Vice Mayor Pullman, second by Councilmember Ryan. Questions or comments on this resolution that was also discussed at the prior public hearing? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Pullman.
Yes.
Fear.
Yes.
Vaughn is absent. Ryan.
Yes.
Nab.
Yes.
Brown is absent. Mueller.
Yes.
Resolution adopted 5-0.
Go to agenda item number 37. It's a resolution involving an AFSCME collective bargaining agreement.
A resolution approving the terms of a successor collective bargaining agreement negotiated between the City of Hamilton, Ohio and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, AFSCME, Ohio Council 8, AFL-CIO, Local 3169, authorizing and directing the execution of said collective bargaining agreement.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Ryan.
I move that the resolution be adopted.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Ryan, second by Councilmember Fear. Questions or discussion on this one? Hearing none, roll call.
Pullman.
Yes.
Fear.
Yes.
Vaughn is absent. Ryan.
Yes.
Nab.
Yes.
Brown is absent. Mueller.
Yes.
Resolution adopted 5-0.
Go to agenda item number 38. It's a resolution involving intent to vacate a portion of Skillman Avenue Alley, excuse me.
A resolution declaring the intent to vacate a portion of Skillman Avenue Alley between Woodlawn Avenue and Woodlawn Avenue Alley A, situated in the 6th Ward, North Side, City of Hamilton, Ohio. Cassandra and Rick Rodriguez, applicant.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Fear.
resolution be adopted.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Fear, seconded by Vice Mayor Pullman. Comments on this one? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Pullman.
Yes.
Fear.
Yes.
Vaughn is absent. Ryan.
Yes.
Nab.
Yes.
Brown is absent. Mueller.
Yes.
Resolution adopted 5-0.
Audience of the City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to take a moment and thank the staff that was recognized earlier this evening. I think Council's aware of this, but the awards are based on the city's organizational values. We consider the values that we have to be aspirational. We don't think we ever quite reach them, but we always aspire for them. Owning the outcome, sense of urgency, passion for Hamilton, those are the things that we feel that as an organization we need to be doing to serving our residents. The one thing that we've talked a lot about internally, we had actually someone tonight at Audience of Citizens that was obviously not satisfied with our service. We've talked a lot about how do we do a better job of processing information, processing complaints, making sure that appropriate people are being notified. I did have a chance to text some of the apartments. They felt that they did provide her an explanation, but we will still follow up again tomorrow with further explanation on what happened. I know Tom was also working on it as I was working on it, because someone's like, I'm getting emails from both of you at this point, but we will certainly follow up with that. But again, that's something that we do take seriously, and I know that's something that frustrates me. It doesn't matter if you're trying to change an airline ticket or something. It seems like anymore you get on the telephone and all you get is hit 5, hit 0 for operator, hit 4 for this, and I've heard that a lot about our processes internally, so we are certainly aware of that and trying to do a much better job of how we route information and take care of people as quickly, as efficiently as possible. The other thing I just want to say tonight, and I mentioned this earlier during the Schuler-Binninghofen presentation, is that I'll be preparing a small presentation on ARPA funds. Obviously, council has the discretion to use those funds in any form or fashion that you so desire. I've been working with the staff just to get some ideas to put in front of you on the August 11th. Just so for a sneak preview, if you will, just very loosely, we've really identified 3 areas that we've heard the most since the ARPA funds have come out. One is public safety. One is, I'm going to lump together traffic improvements and infrastructure, and one is economic development or placemaking. The public safety in particular is where we're going to be recommending the most money to be spent. And since it's one-time money, we prefer it be spent on a one-time expense, not meaning on operating expenses, but in actual buildings, brick and mortar. The Sixes in Lindenwold is a very old firehouse. It was designed for horse-drawn fire apparatus, probably, maybe 1911 or 12, about the year that my house was built in Rossville. Long story short, the functionality of that it's just not there. As a matter of fact, Edwins, who's with us tonight, spent a lot of time structurally analyzing the floor to make sure that we didn't have a fire truck fall into the basement. But that's certainly high on our list, as is on relocating the police department out of the old Kroger building into a more of a modern facility. So public safety is a big piece of that. Traffic improvements, if I'd say I heard a complaint from residents the most in the last couple of years, it's certainly about traffic. And I was certainly thinking about that when former city manager Jack Kirsch was with us tonight. If he was not successful in getting the Kirsch underpass constructed in the 1980s, I couldn't even imagine what we would be facing in terms of traffic. But having only 3 bridges over the river and 1 underpass, and now the South Hamilton Crossing overpass, everything gets funneled to a handful of areas because we have primarily at-grade rail crossings, which with a lot of trains through town provides a lot of logistical nightmares. And the one thing that our traffic engineers made me aware of recently, during the pandemic, most cities saw a decrease in traffic. Our traffic volumes actually increased even during the pandemic. Good news, we've got more people coming to town. Bad news, our traffic continues to seem to get worse and worse, and we need to come up with some solutions. So public safety, traffic/infrastructure, and economic development is the 3 areas we've lumped our suggestions to. Obviously, that just goes to council for your consideration, and you can allocate the money based on your conversations past that. That's all I have. Thank you. Yes.
Mr. Mayor.
Please.
Joshua. So on the 11th, will we be discussing item by item, or how do you see this?
It's simply city staff just providing, we just took a look at the amount of funds being allocated by the federal government, and we've had some pretty robust conversations at the staff level about what it could look like. But again, this is just a starting point. You may decide after you hear the presentation that you want to schedule a future meeting and discuss it in further detail. You might want a special meeting. Whatever council desires, staff will certainly accommodate. But this is more of just an introduction of the funds. I was going to have Dave Jones maybe speak about, the ARPA money, how it comes in, how it can be expended, just maybe give you like the broad parameters so you can start your policy analysis on how you'd like to spend it.
So at that time, or would it be a later meeting where we would be able to ask maybe department heads their opinion of the pros and cons of the suggestions, so that we really, when we vote, we're voting very knowledgeable?
Absolutely. I mean, if you want, as an example, let's say that replacing the Sixes in Lindenwold at an area, we've already had the fire department take a look at it, the GIS staff look at where the calls are. Is there a better location to put that new facility that could have faster response times? You could pull in GIS at that point to ask them about their analysis. You could pull the fire department in to ask them their opinion. Things of that nature. But yeah, I mean, we could certainly provide staff on any of the topics to provide background information.
And so to Dave's point about how we get one batch of money and we have to spend it first, and then we get the second batch of money, will we be prioritizing that as well, like what gets spent in the first round?
So what, the way I see this working is tonight the fund was fully appropriated. The fund that the ARPA money is in.
Okay.
What we're trying to do is there's a revenue loss piece of that, which would allow us to put that money completely in the general fund. After that, we would take the city manager's suggestion and your all suggestions. I don't know how, I would defer to the law director. We would vote on how it was spent at that point, but it would be, the ARPA money would have to be, just for accounting reasons, used to pay public safety salaries, which would then free up fund balance.
Okay.
that could then be appropriated for the other items the city manager is talking about.
Okay, all right.
But again, I mean, yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's cool.
I just want to say, I mean, we're just putting together a recommendation saying, based on input from all the different departments, where could this money actually be utilized? And the one thing I will say that we did try to use, you could spread that money very thin. As an example, I mean, if you want to use, to relocate the depot and improve it, you know, we think it's going to be a little over $2 million. Do you want to use ARPA funds for that, or are you going to use general funds for that, as an example? But we have prioritized in our minds, you know, what we feel is important, and we had tons of items come on that list, and we're happy to review any of those, but we really try to prioritize it to public safety buildings, traffic improvements / infrastructure, and then what we call economic development. So as an example of economic development would be the purchase of the Schuler-Benninghofen mill that generates a return of $20+ million in capital investment. But again, it's not my expectation that you need to debate it that night. We simply just want to provide you the information, do a short report, and then let council come back to us and say, okay, we would like to schedule at the next meeting or maybe a special meeting. And then however we want to structure it from there, it's fine. I mean, I'm willing to lead that if you want me to. If council wants to take the lead on that, that's fine. I'm just waiting for instruction from council on how to proceed.
Okay, thank you.
It seems to me, just from what I've heard tonight, there has been a lot of analysis of what we can do with this money. There has been some research about how we can do this and make sure the Treasury Department is okay with how we're doing this. So we're not just jumping into this. We are carefully going step by step, and we're getting closer to the step of having a discussion about how we're ultimately going to use the monies. Because we've done the research on how we can, now how we're going to truly pledge those dollars towards those projects. I mean, I feel comfortable that it's going at the right rate, very carefully. Let's get to the point now where we're going to figure out how we're going to use that money the right way.
Mr. Mayor, and Dave Jones, too. So my understanding is we've got this first allotment here. We can actually, if you go and pay salaries with it and stuff, you're just saying we're paying the salaries that's the proper way to use the ARPA funds. And then we have that 13 million or whatever left up. Is that 13 million is what we said we had?
You currently have almost 16.8 million.
16.8 million. So if we use that to pay salaries and other things internally, then you're just saying we have 16.8 extra in the general fund is what we could go and spend the money. We're not really directly, if we put a new house up for the sixes, we're not directly taking that from an ARPA fund.
Accounting-wise, you are correct. The ARPA money would have to be used to pay public safety salaries.
Okay, and then that just to make a clarification, you're paying is to pay the salaries, and then we know that we've got that extra money in general fund now that we can throw out and say replace the sixes or whatever else we have to do with that.
Council could appropriate how they chose.
I just want to clarify with everybody that we're not taking the money from ARPA to pay for the sixes. We're paying the salaries, and that just frees up our general fund. That's what you're saying, correct?
That is correct. It's
okay,
just
perfect.
The state auditors put out a bulletin, and it's the
Makes
accounting
sense.
way we have to go about it.
Okay, makes sense.
I think importantly, Mayor, and to cap off what we're discussing tonight, the city team and Dave and you and your department, Joshua, all of those folks that work with you are going to give us some guidelines and opportunity to be able to have this discussion. We've all read about and heard about other municipalities in Cincinnati or in Ohio, and Cincinnati is one of them, that have already come up with decisions on how this money is going to be spent, and that floored me. How can they come up with a plan that money has been allocated and that they're already going to pigeonhole it into certain areas without appropriate backup? We are not going to do that in the city of Hamilton. We'll have a plan. Dave, thanks for the expertise on how we have to spend that money and come back with general fund, like you said, Eric, in appropriation of those funds and things like that. So thanks for all of the due diligence and, again, this transparency that we're guaranteeing the people that we work with in the city of Hamilton, our citizenry, where that money is going to be spent. Thank you.
We're doing our research, definitely. Please.
Dave, so 16.8 mil this year, 16.8 next year. What's the deadline for 22 that we got to spend the second half on?
So you have until 12/31/24 to spend it all.
Anything else? City manager, or any comments from council? I just want to thank you for putting together a team of really public service all-stars, because that's what they are. I mean, example tonight, those who were recognized, and there's so many of those who were not recognized who are also all-stars, no doubt about it. Great job by our all-star acting city clerk, Mr. Collin over there. Thank you.
And that he stands on roofs or something.
Yeah. I like to hang out on roofs.
Anything else as far as audience of city council? I want to thank everybody who made July 4th very special around here on July 4th. We did it the right way again. All right, request anything else from council regarding audience of council other than what I just said? Executive session? Request, sir?
Yes, sir, for 3 different items. The first is to consider confidential information related to specific business strategy or personal financial statements of an applicant for economic development assistance. The second is to consider the purchase of property for public purposes. And the third is to confer with an attorney for the public body concerning disputes involving the public body that are the subject of imminent court action.
Okay, regarding your request number 1, is there a motion? I'll accept the motion that the executive session is found to be necessary to protect the interests of the applicant where there is possible investment or expenditure of public funds to be made in connection with the economic development project.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Vice Mayor Pullman, second by Councilmember Fear. Roll call vote, please, on that.
Pullman,
Yes.
Fear,
Yes.
Vaughn is absent. Ryan,
Yes.
Nab,
Yes.
Brown is absent. Mueller,
Yes.
motion adopted 5-0.
Is there a motion that we go into executive session for those 3 stated purposes by the city manager?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made Councilmember Fear, seconded by Councilmember Ryan. Roll call vote on that motion, please.
Pullman,
Yes.
Fear,
Yes.
Vaughn is absent. Ryan,
Yes.
Nab,
Yes.
Brown is absent. Mueller,
Yes.
motion adopted 5-0.
Okay, we're going into executive session at 8:14. We'll come out of executive session just to adjourn that regular meeting. Thank you. Upstairs or downstairs?
If upstairs, that's okay.